As the situation gets darker and darker, surrender now seems inevitable.
Il s'agit pas de toi, Igor.
Je vais te ramener, d'accord?
C'est à cause de MeToo que les mecs ils osent plus conclure.
À cause de qui?
Nous sommes allés faire cette visite. Antoine ne voulait pas, il le sentait pas. J'ai insisté pour qu'on y aille.
Hello, and thank you for joining us here on Arts 24 for our cinema show with Ben Croll. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Well, you're back from the Cannes Film Festival. We can see it all over your face.
I was not only in the dark the whole time.
Well, you're looking great. Now, some of the biggest films from the festival are indeed hitting French screens this week. Let's start with De Gaulle Résistance. It's the first in a two-part war saga. It actually comes out on June the 3rd, so in a week. The film is shaping up to be one of France's film events of the year, certainly one for World War II buffs as well. Ben, is it worth the wait?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. After recent films like The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, this is the latest in a trend of homegrown blockbusters, films that treat French stories and French mythic figures in a more authentic voice. It's not a bunch of British actors, intoning in French accents. These films are made for international viewers, and so you can kind of imagine them as a very brawny form of French soft power. De Gaulle Résistance and the already shot part 2 De Gaulle Liberté, which comes out in July, follow the famous general from the fall of France in 1940 until France's full liberation in 1945. Of course, these are big summer blockbusters, and you can't make summer blockbusters about people shouting in a room, and so we follow de Gaulle, but also the soldiers, commandos, resistance fighters, and youth he inspires, the people that actually go out and do the fighting, bringing the explosion and the spectacle to the big screen. Let's take a look.
Partout, des réseaux sont en train de se former. Ils ont la rage au cœur. Ils veulent se battre.
La France n'a pas capitulé.
Vous n'êtes pas la France!
Nous sommes la France. Vous, nous.
You chose our side, the side of freedom. You see a child attacked by savages, you'd step in.
La France n'est pas un enfant, Monsieur le Président. Elle a toujours continué à se battre.
Certainly, it's very much a war film. It does look like it was quite expensively made, Ben. I have two questions for you. How does it differ from the sort of Hollywood-produced war films? And how credible is the actor you saw there, Simon Abkarian, as Charles de Gaulle?
Well, I mean, he's very credible, especially because he leans...
He looks like him as well.
Yeah, he does look like him. And he sort of leans into the comedic aspect of de Gaulle because, as we saw in that clip, there is this inherent irony between, his self-possession and the high esteem in which he holds himself and the circumstances, at least in 1940, where he's just a kind of a schnook in a room. And that really does tie into the Hollywood question as well. I mean, the film feels more authentically French in the way that it treats geopolitics and in the way that it treats political figures with a degree of irreverence. The filmmaker Antonin Baudry got his start in international diplomacy before skewering his own work in diplomacy with the comic book series Quai d'Orsay. And so de Gaulle threads those perspectives. It has that very nuanced understanding of geopolitics and maybe even a more sophisticated understanding of how to thread together coalitions than you would see in a normal blockbuster, but also that irreverence towards authority, that idea that a great man can also be a buffoon. And actually, in certain instances, you need that pomp and circumstance to make high diplomacy work. We are going to hear from the star, Simon Abkarian, and the director, Antonin Baudry, about that very work right now.
What interested me wasn't the myth. It was that man's era, 1940. In that moment, he was a nobody, a complete unknown in England and in France. It was just after the capitulation. The German occupation had begun, and there he was, going to see Churchill and telling him that France was not going to surrender.
From surprise, I moved to trembling, from trembling to doubt, and with each reading, I realized that within the text, there were all the tools that allow an actor or actress to fully develop their work, to explore its entire range.
And if you want to see them win the war, you'll have to wait for part 2 that comes out on July 1st. And it's called De Gaulle Liberté. Now, moving on, Ben, to this week's another one of the big releases this week, Crescendo, set in the opera world following a production of The Marriage of Figaro struck by sexual assault allegations. But this is actually a comedy.
Very much so.
Doesn't sound very funny.
No, I mean, and that's the idea. It's a very classic backstage farce about big egos colliding in the run-up to the big show. The fact that it's about opera is just kind of a pretext, a shorthand for something very traditional and resistant to change. While the film's real subject, as you know, we said, is Me Too. How different generations and perspectives reckon with allegations, changing mores, changing protections on set. And also, of course, the creeping fear that some men have that they might be named next. Being a farce, it skewers everyone and every perspective. And let's hear what director Agnès Jaoui has to say about that.
C'est les noces, c'est joyeux. Ça doit être léger, ça doit chuchoter, et puis après ça explose.
Tu avais fait tes premières noces avec moi il y a 30 ans.
30 ans déjà, oh mon Dieu. Je m'interroge sur pourquoi...
I wonder why women's rights ultimately progress so slowly and they're never definitively secured. So I've been asking myself, and continue to ask myself throughout this film, which is also why I chose The Marriage of Figaro, since it's an 18th century opera that already reflects a step forward for women's rights. What has really changed since then, and what still remains the same?
Et qu'est-ce qui perdure?
Le stress. J'aime pas quand on me touche.
C'est-à-dire?
Non, rien.
Mais si, vas-y, dis.
C'est la situation aussi.
Agressé?
Ça m'étonne pas de lui. Hein.
Ah bah voilà.
Well, tackling the world of opera with sexual assault allegations, trying to make it comedic for a film, it sounds very ambitious, Ben.
It is ambitious.
How does it play out?
It is ambitious, but maybe it's a little bit too ambitious, and maybe it's a little bit too operatic, because there's a very strong 90-minute comedy in a 2-hour and 20-minute film.
Okay,
I mean,
so it's too long.
it's too long, and it's too long by way of repetition. There's some great ideas, great jokes, great gags, great concepts that just get repeated again and again and again until they, become diluted and they get ground down. And that really is too bad, because there's some very interesting social commentary happening in the film. As I said, Jaoui is an equal opportunity provocatrice, I guess. Provocateurs. Oh my God, I don't even know. She provokes. That's it.
Provokes.
Don't check my grammar.
A provoker.
She's a provoker. And she's equal opportunity about all of that. So she takes, shots at old male pigs, but also at Me Too activists and young women that maybe are a little bit zealous in their activism. And for that reason, at Cannes, I heard the film a little described as almost reactionary. I don't agree with that at all, but it does take a more middle ground position, like a level of people that are open to social change, but maybe blindsided by the speed at which that change occurs. And that's a kind of a recognizable sensibility. That's a sensibility that's shared by a lot of, moderate progressive people, and a sensibility that you hear a lot from people that work in the arts, especially on film sets. In that sense, the film, again, it's about opera, but it feels like it's very much reflective of the conversations that are happening behind the scenes on films and film sets today.
One of those younger, more activist characters is played by Eye Aïdara, who also stars in this week's other French release, Mata. Now, we recently heard from her in Cannes. Take a look.
Mata, it's exciting to play a spy in Mata. It's a role I had never taken on before. And meeting Rachel Lang was wonderful as well.
Nous sommes allés faire cette visite. Antoine ne voulait pas, il le sentait pas. J'ai insisté pour qu'on y aille.
Capitaine, votre condition physique vous éloigne de l'action. Vous êtes versé aux effectifs de la DGSI.
Est-ce qu'Antoine a subi le même sort que les autres?
So she stole the show in Toledano and Nakash's Le Sens de la Fête, and her career has really been building ever since. Crescendo is more of an ensemble comedy, but Mata is a one-woman show. It's an espionage thriller in which Aïdara gets the chance to flex her dramatic muscles and her action muscles as well, playing a special agent leading an investigation into the attack that left her sidelined and her partner kidnapped.
So how does the film fare for you?
It's fine.
Just fine?
It's like there's no great shakes. It goes down easy. It's not the most memorable action thriller. It's not the most memorable espionage film. It it gets the job done, I guess you could say.
All right.
And if you're kind of been missing watching the Bureau, Le Bureau des Légendes, it'll scratch that itch. But ultimately, I think the film most serves as a sizzle reel for actress Aya Adira herself. She is really in the spotlight right now, and this is a way that she can put on the drama mask, as well as the comedy mask at a moment where there's got a lot of interest in her.
Present
and so that's going to be ultimately very beneficial for her career going forward. But I think that the longer that career goes on, the more that Mata will probably be forgotten.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
Sorry.
Unforgettable.
So it's
we might
fine.
say, according to Ben.
It gets the job done, but the job is to get her to the next film,
All right. Well, we'll close today, Ben, by moving beyond France, so not too far. We're staying in Europe with the Swiss drama Silent Rebellion. What's that about?
Well, it is about hypocrisy in World War II. But just to go back to something, going back to this year's Cannes Film Festival, there were Best Actor prize was a tie between the two stars of Coward, a Belgian film. The Best Actress prize was a tie between the two stars of All of a Sudden. One a Belgian actor and one a Japanese actor. All four actors were acting in French. None of them were actually French. And so on a show that we're really dedicating to French cinema, it's important to say that we're talking about Francophone cinema, because Francophone cinema extends beyond the hexagon, sometimes not too far, maybe just next door to Switzerland, as is the case in Silent Rebellion, a film about a 15-year-old girl who learns all about hypocrisy as the war rages on all around her. Hypocrisy from her countrymen who claim to be neutral, but then are very happy to help the Nazis, score the forest looking for refugees hiding out. And hypocrisy also from her family and her clergy who condemn her for being sexually assaulted. In that way, it's a hard film. It's a challenging film because it doesn't sugarcoat or offer easy exits about any of this stuff. But as the title suggests, it's also very lyrical. It's alive to the fact that even in difficult situations, there are forms of rebellion. There are ways to assert yourself and to say, you know what, no, I'm not going to take it anymore.
Okay, so bringing us a fresh perspective on the World War II genre. Thank you so much for joining us here, Ben. Thank you for watching. Let's leave you with a look at that Swiss film, Silent Rebellion. It's out in French cinemas this Wednesday. Thank you. If you want to watch more news on Arts24, check out our website, france24.com. Stay with us. More news coming up. See you next time.
Je n'ai pas saigné ce mois-ci.
Merci pour tout. C'est un véritable plaisir d'en faire tes connaissances.
Un homme peut jamais être certain d'être le père.